Hello, this is Ovvian Hill and this is Life, Love and Lumpia. Today we have Asuncion Sta who is joining us for this podcast. Would you like to tell us, Asuncion, about what you do, introduce yourself, and what it is that you do here in Fort St. John?
Yes, hi. Thank you for having me, Ovvian. My name is Asuncion Sta. I work with the YMCA BC and I'm the Community Development and Project Lead for the Foundry Fort St. John project.
Very good. So it looks like a very serious project. But before we go there, let's talk about Life, which is the first segment of Life, Love and Lumpia. And by this, we'd like to know about your life in Fort St. John. So can you tell us what your origin story is in Fort St. John? How did you get here? And who did you come here with?
Yes, of course. It's always a fun story sharing where we came from, right?
Yeah.
My family and I moved from the Philippines in 2012. My husband Charles was hired by Rona Hardware directly. During that time, it was called the Federal Skilled Workers Program. So he came as a worker and I came with an open work permit. And our oldest son was only 7 years old then, JC. And Jose, who you fondly call Boogie,
Yes.
was only 8 months old. So we moved in 2012 around August.
So that was, you came in the summer. So what was your
Yes.
first winter like in Fort St. John?
Oh, it was really funny because we told ourselves that we wouldn't buy a car until we can hold it off, right? Because of all the expenses. I started working for the Pomeroy Hotel after 2 weeks of arrival. And about middle of October, it started snowing already that year. And obviously, I didn't know how to dress up. I didn't know the right shoes to wear or all those little things, right? We were learning and we were just walking around town with Boogie in his stroller.
Right.
And eventually we were able to get a secondhand car because it was really hard going around. The first winter was really fun. And I think, we personally think, the experience of winter was really great because we had little kids. So everything was new, everything was fun. It wasn't like, oh, this is so scary, it's minus 40. But it was like, oh my gosh, there's so much snow outside, let's go out and play. So I think it was just the right mindset and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I think that's something that you need to have when you come to Fort St. John, whether you're coming from out of Canada into Canada, or even if you live in Canada elsewhere, coming to a northern place in BC, you probably need to have the right mindset to come and want to live in Fort St. John. You did mention about summertime when you first arrived. But these days, though, what's a summertime day like for you here in Fort St. John?
Well, now I get to work from home, so it's an entirely different experience. I have a little office at home, my work office, but when springtime came, I moved my office to the dining room because I just wanted to have more sun and enjoy the sun that we have from, all the different angles of the house.
Right.
So summertime is, this year is really different because my oldest son is now in university. He's home for a couple of months. He's working and Jose has his summer activities, mostly sports. So it's still shuffling back and forth to his appointments, but it's more flexible because I get to work from home. And if I need to meet with people outside of home, I just get to go to town, which is 5 minutes drive
Right.
away.
That's the thing about Fort St. John being the size that we are. You do mention about summertime. What about the wintertime? What's a day like for you in the wintertime here in Fort St. John these days?
Yes, of course. wintertime, again, it's all about the kids, right? Dropping Jose off to school, picking him up, dropping him off to his extracurricular activities. And most of the time, we just really like to stay home. You know that even in the summertime, we like having people over because it's just better to stay home. We like cooking and enjoying our food.
I can say that, I can attest to that. I've been invited to Ching's house a few times for good food. So yeah, I do enjoy going to your home. It's a lovely home as well. In your years of being here, which years would you say were the most memorable and why?
Oh, definitely the first year, the 2012. One of the key memories that our family has, and it's in our core memory, was our first Thanksgiving. Growing up in the Philippines, I used to watch Martha Stewart shows, and you collect those magazines and you're looking at all the fancy Thanksgiving spreads that people would have, and the culture in North America that families would invite over friends to join them for Thanksgiving. We didn't get an invitation though. So we were like, okay, we got to cook our first turkey. And luckily, I worked at the Pomeroy Hotel at that time, and I was good friends with a breakfast chef, an older lady named Ivy. And I asked her, Ivy, how do you make turkey? When I Google it, it's so complicated. And she said, don't believe Google. This is what you do. So she taught me her technique. We used to live near where Mama Pandas is. We used to live at one of the Brown House apartments. And so walking across Alaska Highway is about 5 minutes walk. We would cross Alaska Highway with the kids, with Jose in a stroller, to do our groceries at the Canadian wholesale store. And so we bought our turkey, we bought a sack of rice, we bought a turkey pan, all those little things that you need to prepare for Thanksgiving. And because we didn't have a car, we put everything underneath Jose's stroller. And we have a picture of that to keep in our memory. And of course, during those times, we kept telling ourselves, why are we doing this, right? Because back in the Philippines, we had the luxury of having multiple cars, and we didn't even have to drive, right? And we had people helping us with chores at home, etc. But here, you do everything yourself. But like what you said earlier, it's the proper mindset. It's all part of the adventure. And so we were so eager to celebrate our first Thanksgiving. The turkey was a success. And every year since then, we would prepare the same feast. But we would try our best to invite newcomers to join us, and families who are just by themselves like ourselves way back in 2012. So that was the most memorable year, I would say.
It does sound very memorable. And so the people you invite now are benefiting from that memory. And as you celebrate Thanksgiving moving forward, you are inviting other people. So that's a good thing, a wonderful thing. If you weren't in Fort St. John right now doing the things that you do, where would you be and what would you be doing?
I think I would still be back in the Philippines. I was born and raised in a small town named Camalig, Albay, in the Albay province, southern part of the Philippines. I think I would still be there helping out in our family business.
So are some of the things that you've done in the Philippines, are you able to do them here now in Fort St. John? Can you tell us about what probably some skills or experiences that, that you're not able to use, as you mentioned, working at the foundry?
It's funny that you ask me that. Not too many people ask me that question. Recently, I took up a couple of courses with the UBC that you know of, the equity and diversity courses. Most of the courses were focused on reflecting on one's personal experience. I thought we would be tackling more on case studies of different companies, etc. But we talked more about ourselves, and each course ran for 6 weeks. Each week, we would have one essay to produce, one assignment. And it gave me a lot of opportunity to reflect on that question that you asked, because one of the courses was all about identity. And I'm sure you would agree with me, before we left the Philippines, our identities were already pretty much rooted, pretty much set, right? What was valuable to us was pretty much defined, which included our family, our work, our business, the extracurriculars and volunteerism that we did a lot back home. But when I moved to the Philippines, I realized recently, Ovvian, that I lost all of that. It's like you step into a new country and all of a sudden you were nobody you didn't know anybody, because we didn't know anybody when we moved here. We didn't have family or friends in Fort St. John. The closest people that we knew of were in Vancouver and Toronto. And so in terms of skill set and talent and things that I used to do back in the Philippines that I'm able to translate now, all of them are being able, I'm being able to use them now already, in a sense that, you know, the people person that we both are, the skills that I was able to gather from marketing and HR work and running businesses back home, it's being put to amazing use to the current role that I have now. And so it just takes patience and time, and, you know, all in God's time. And when the universe conspires and tells us it's the right time for us to do the work that we should be doing, we'll get there.
Yeah, all in good time. And certainly it seems like it's rolling out to be being a wonderful life here in Fort St. John.
Yes, thank you.
So we're back with Asuncion, who I lovingly call Ching. Now let's talk about love, life, love, and lumpia. And by love, we mean your passion and passion projects. So my first question is, what do you love about Fort St. John?
Well, that's a very easy question to answer. For myself and my family, we like the small town feel. I was born and raised in a small community as well, but obviously the definition of small back in the Philippines and here are two different things. Like, my town's population then was about 50,000, and when I came here, Fort St. John's population was about 19,000. But it's nice to be here because everything's within 5 to 10 minutes drive. There's almost zero stress. Like, the typical example I would always like to talk about is when both my kids were still in school and they, you know, forget something at home, forgot my lunchbox, and you're like, okay, let's just drive back home and get it. But I can imagine if I lived in a bigger city, I would already be freaking out because of the traffic and the time that I'd be losing going back home to get whatever it is that they left. So that's one. And the other thing is the sense of community, because it's such a small town. Almost everybody knows everybody. It would be impossible to do your grocery run without seeing somebody. That's right. Everybody cares. And I'm a testament to that because of the community development work that I've been doing for a couple of years. A lot of people really like to help. They just don't know how, right? And
that is a recurring theme and a recurring response from the people we've interviewed for this podcast. That is a main observation, that people in Fort St. John really do like to help, and that's a wonderful thing about where we live. So my next question is, overall, what brings you joy? I mean, sometimes we get happy, we laugh, but at the core of things, what brings you joy?
Well, the first is my family. I just love spending time with them, whatever it is that we're doing. We like what I said earlier, just staying home. We like watching movies, and we like enjoying our dinners together, just talking about anything under the sun, really, or anything under the winter weather, so to speak. And I mean, like you mentioned, like when you first came here, and you did mention some challenges in having the right mindset, but we can, I think, agree that there are always challenges at any age, at any time of our lives. And even when we say that life in Fort St. John for you is quite good, but what do you do to overcome challenges when you face them? Yeah, I'm 49 already, Ovvian. I turned 49 in July. I think at this age, my firm belief is there's really nothing in this world that we can't tackle, to be honest. There's always a solution to everything, but it's, you know, taking our time, just breathing and figuring out together, whoever it is that we're going through that journey, whether it's personal or professional, we all work as a team. And I have no doubt that, you know, we're both prayerful people. I don't go to church as much as I want to, or as I used to do before, but I believe in an amazing God. And, you know, the universe, our God, whatever God people pray to, there's a master plan that we don't know about. So we just go with the flow.
Well, I mean, it's very evident that you're very passionate about your family, among other things. And you did mention about your work. Can you tell us more about how you're expressing your passion and how you overcome challenges in your current work? It is challenging because You mentioned that, and I'm aware of this, that you are setting up something new that isn't in Fort St. John yet. Can you tell us more about what this is and how your passion comes into play as you're building this?
Yes, I'm glad you've asked that question. So my employer is the YMCA BC, and we are the host agency for Foundry. And currently there's 18 centers in operation in BC. We are building another 18, and one of those centers will be Fort St. John. So you're right, we don't have that facility yet here, but we're building from the ground up. It's a new center for youth 12 to 24, their families and caregivers. And I am just really blessed and lucky because I get to use my creativity in running the project. I've mentioned that I work from home, which is really, really comfortable. And I work with an amazing team. If, the joke that I always say is, if I need anything, so long as I know which friend to call, dial a friend, right? You just always ask for help.
Yeah.
I reach out to YMCA or Foundry. They're both very well established organizations. I get the support that I need. And so for me, that's really important, especially that I work sort of in isolation in Fort St. John with another lady, and another lady is actually coming on board pretty soon here. But it's that team support that helps us.
I know that the Foundry is primarily intended for the youth of the community. You mentioned ages 12 to 24. What kind of services will the youth be able to see once it's built? Or also, I know there's some services available already right now online. Can you tell us more about those things?
Yes, for sure. I like talking about my work, you know that. So Foundry has 5 core services, which are mental health support. We do substance use support, peer support, social support, and primary care. So hopefully we get some physicians on board and nurse practitioners. And so the services are offered to youth 12 to 24 and their families and caregivers. And the way families and caregivers are defined is very broad. It can be anybody who's helping a youth navigate that person's journey. And currently, all of those services, because we don't have a physical center yet, are available online through Foundry Virtual.
Very good. There's a lot of support systems there. I know you mentioned your family. So all the things that you do, all the things that you love, I know the family is probably still going to be your answer, but who do you do them for primarily? And how do you see this moving forward as you're serving family or serving, doing the things that you like to do?
Yeah, well, we do it primarily for our family, but really, I always, when I pray, I don't ask for anything. I never ask for anything. I just say, God, Lord, wherever you think I would perform best in this lifetime, please put me there. Because most of the time we don't really know what's best for us, but He knows what's best for us. And I believe that wherever I'm at right now is the best way for me to serve our community, serve our family, serve our friends. And it's all about service. It's not really about us. It's all about what we can give and contribute to this world. I know it's a sort of a Miss Universe question, the way you say that sometimes in our conversations, right? But it's all about serving the better world.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's glad to be passionate about things that actually benefit others. And now we're going to be talking about lumpia. So for those of you who are not aware, lumpia is actually the Filipino spring roll. We have 2 kinds here. We have the lumpiang Shanghai and the lumpiang gulay. Shanghai, as you might imagine, it's derived from Chinese cuisine that we have made into our own. And gulay means vegetable. So the other one is actually like a vegetable spring roll. Back with Ching. Ching, you must have your own lumpia recipe. And of course, I know you've tried lumpia before. That's a no-brainer. So can you tell us more about your memories of your cooking lumpia or memories? Because I know for myself, one of the things that I had to learn from a very young age is how to wrap a lumpia. And traditionally in a Filipino household, especially when I was growing up, the girls had to be in the kitchen or had to know some kitchen skills. And wrapping a lumpia is one of those Filipino skills that they teach the daughters. Did you have the same experience?
I'm sorry to to disappoint you, but this is not one of my skills.
Okay.
Growing up, we didn't really make lumpia a lot in our household. I don't know why.
But that's one of the things that actually I brought up with some conversations before, because in North America, when you go to parties, even in California where I used to live, we always have pancit and lumpia. And it would be like a constant in Filipino parties. But I observe in the Philippines that lumpia, or pancit for that matter, isn't always on the roster or a menu for a Filipino celebration. But here, the assumption is there'll always be pancit and lumpia. So you're saying now that it wasn't part of your
It wasn't
regular...
part of our regular fare in our home, but obviously, and I'm sure most Filipinos would be able to share this experience, when we go to fiestas, right, and birthday parties, that's the time to enjoy this type of food.
Right.
Maybe because my parents never really invited people for fiestas.
Yes.
For birthdays, yes, but we never really
Celebrated
learned
fiesta.
to make lumpia ourselves.
Right. Well, for those who are not aware, back in the day in the Philippines, when you'd have a fiesta is like a festivity, and usually it celebrates the feast day of the patron saint of where you live, right? So if you live in a small town, there's probably going to be a Catholic church there, and that is named after or is named after a patron saint, or they'd have a patron saint for that particular locality. And the feast day of that saint would be the fiesta. And oftentimes that means your doors are open to anybody who wants to come to your house to partake. So I don't know if people still do that. It might not be as safe as many years ago, but now you're saying that your parents didn't really entertain people during fiestas.
Yes, I remember, well, now that we're older, and when my mom was still alive, recalling those stories, I remember every time our town's patron saint was Saint John the Baptist. So it's during the June season, right? It's summertime. We will always go to Legazpi City. It's about 30 minutes, 45 minutes drive. For the whole day, we would go there and spend time there, eat in the restaurants, watch movies, etc. growing up. Apparently because my dad didn't like to entertain people during the actual fiesta day.
Yeah. So when people come knocking, you're not going to be
there's
there.
nobody home.
That's a good technique.
He was a naughty guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So if lumpia wasn't your favorite, can you tell us what your normal table would be like? What would your favorite dish be, a Filipino dish?
Yes. Biggest part of my childhood, we would always enjoy cocido. We call it cocido in Bicol. And it's a sinigang version, fish version. But we would use calamansi, or now that we're in Canada, the most we would get would be lemon or lime.
Right.
And put patis, or fish sauce, and a little bit of fish. And the leaves that we would use will be the talbos ng kamote.
Right.
So it's one of those local vegetables that we have, and we had a lot of that in our home. So you just pick and harvest it right before cooking. And because the talbos ng kamote is colored purple, when you add the lemon, the acidity mix and whatnot with that recipe, the soup becomes purple.
Oh, very interesting.
It is very interesting, and apparently it's only in Bicol, and I've met a couple of Cebuanos here in town that have mentioned they cook their fish that way too. So cocido is such a favorite of mine.
I see.
And we would always have fried fish. We have an abundance of yellowfin tuna back where I'm from. And
Is your town coastal?
no, but pretty close. We have access to fresh fish. You know that.
Yeah.
So being
Well,
here,
we live on islands, so yeah.
7,160 islands.
Yeah.
Low tide.
Yeah, the Miss Universe response. Yeah, for sure. I don't think I'm familiar with cocido, so now I'm interested in trying that. I think you have to cook that for me, Ching.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so here in Canada, you see you've been here for a number of years now. What kind of interactions do you have with the Filipino community? Are you able to partake different cuisine? You mentioned your own. What about other parts of the country, of the Philippines? Do you have access to food from other parts of the country as well?
Well, we have to accept the fact that Filipinos are all over, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the current statistic shows that 14% of Fort St. John's population is now composed of immigrants, and about 9% of that are Filipinos. And we meet Filipinos everywhere, really, and I'm that type of person that if I see you in a store and I feel like you're Filipino, and my son JC would always ask me, how do you know they're Filipino? I said, I don't know, there's just that different look, the Malay heritage that we have, and I guess we feel the energy of each other, and I just always ask, are you Filipino? And most of the time they are. So we establish those relationships from there, or common friends introducing other people.
Right.
And to answer your question, just last night I was invited by a lovely lady who's from the Philippines, studying at Northern Lights College, who I met through another friend. It was her birthday, so she made a huge feast. She was very apologetic, like most Filipinos, about her cooking, but obviously it was really delicious. She made menudo, one of your favorites. There was sinigang, there was lumpia, there was siomai, Filipino spaghetti, there was dinuguan. So that's a typical party that we have, right? And so it is in those interactions that we really build our friendships, right? Our relationships.
Right. Yeah. You know, like when I first came to Fort St. John, one of the challenges was finding ingredients. I know that has changed. Can you tell us more about your experience from first coming here, those challenges, not only with finding ingredients, but also what you observed with the Filipino community at the time, and how it has changed, and what have you observed in between?
In terms of ingredients and the things that we were used to, from day one, my husband Charles and I were very open, right? There will be things that you won't find here, and there will be things that you would. So you just have to be creative. And again, it's that proper mindset. We moved to a different country. We need to learn and adapt and assimilate. It's all part of that journey, not that we're forgetting where we come from or our values, but we're just adjusting according to the current environment that we're in. And what I like to talk about to my friends and people that we meet, in fact, just last night I was talking about this, wherever we came from, we already had our own set of values, good and not so good. Now that we're here, we see a lot of good and not so good things as well. So let's just pluck and pick out the nice ones and put them together, and that's what makes us great Filipino-Canadians, really, because the Canadian culture that I was introduced to is such a great culture as well, right? Not single one culture is more superior over the other. It's really an amalgamation of all these different things, and that is why I'm sure you would remember a couple of meetings for you and I, we talked about this. We shouldn't limit our interactions to other Filipinos only.
Right.
You are already in a different country, so open your mind, open your heart, open your home to different people, and you'd be surprised. We all have lots of similarities that connects us together.
So, would you like to try some of our lumpia?
I would love to, and again, because I don't cook it, this is a luxury for me. To whoever made this, thank you.
Yeah, it's my good friend Leslie who made those. She does make very tasty lumpia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are many varieties of lumpia. As I mentioned, this is the lumpiang Shanghai, and there's lumpiang gulay. There's also lumpiang sariwa, which is the fresh lumpia, which is probably my personal favorite because it's almost like eating a salad that's wrapped, right? It's one of my favorites as well. Can you tell us more about if there's something in Philippine cuisine that we can't get here that you absolutely miss?
It's the fresh fish, really. That's why when we travel down in Vancouver or whenever we visit family in the U.S., I like going to the fresh market.
Right.
Yeah, that's a luxury for us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I remember there was a time you brought some chocolate for me.
Yes.
Yes. There's some preparations that we might have similar flavors, but like homegrown things. So the process is a little bit different, and the taste profiles might be a little bit different. But it would be a luxury to get those things here because a lot of those things you can't, right?
Yeah, no, you can't get the chocolate or hot chocolate.
Right.
But I grew up making chocolate, not lumpia. Now that you've mentioned that, just reflecting back, we grew up in our long dining table preparing. And during that time, we didn't have molders yet. So we had to shape them with our hand because they're called tablea, right?
Tablea.
In our time, obviously we're quite older than most people, they came in round presentation, right? But
Right.
now you have the polvoron mold, that's what they would
Right,
use.
yeah.
And so
So you just made balls out of
we
them.
made balls out of that, and my mom was a great cook. She grew up in a family with turo-turo.
Right.
So she knew her kitchen really well, and we learned how to make that. So almost every morning that would be served for breakfast, and that's a luxury here now. I
Right.
make sure that if somebody's going home to the Philippines, that I have some made
Yeah.
the same way that my mom would make it. And luckily, one of my sister-in-laws makes it really well, and we just freeze it.
Right.
So-
Right. Do the Bicolanos have chocolate and coffee with rice? Because that was something that my Lola used to do.
Yes.
They would have coffee with rice
Yes.
and chocolate
Yeah.
with rice.
We like our rice soft.
Yeah, yeah. And oftentimes, it's something that I think other Asian cultures do as well. They put soup in the rice.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
yeah.
us. That's
Yeah.
our family. One of my brothers says we're wet fed.
Yeah. Well, certainly there's certain things that we used to do. And as you say, as Filipino-Canadians, because we are Canadians, I think our culture is unique that way, especially as you say too, we are of a certain generation. So what we bring together is the wholeness of who we are currently. So thank you so much, Ching, for being with me here in Life, Love and Lumpia. This has been Ovvian Hill. Thank you for joining us for this podcast.